As a result of some comments from Martina Navratilova and Sharron Davies, the debate about transgenders in competitive sports has resurfaced yet again. Sharron Davies, who is a competitive swimmer and former Olympian, said that there is a benefit to being born a male, and that's not fair on females in sport. Now, the obvious point here that seems to be lost on anyone who's defending transgenders competing in competitive sports is that we're only having this discussion in one direction. We are only talking about men who are transitioning to women and then competing as a woman. We have never once talked about a woman transitioning to a man and competing as a man. And that alone should tell you everything that you need to know about this issue, that there is a biological advantage, and that biological advantage only works in one direction. But there's another point here that's often brought up that I think is worth addressing specifically, and that is that sports have never truly been equal, and sports in general have never promised a truly equal playing field.
I think there's a myth of an even playing field. I really respectfully disagree. There are all kinds of reasons that people have advantages. Somebody's parents can give them year-round training. Somebody else is really, really tall and someone's really, really short. I mean, there's no such thing as a level playing field. You are the gender you identify with. That's the rule in Connecticut.
Now, on the surface, this seems like a decent point, and it is one that I think defenders of transgenders in sports are going to use more often, but it's a point that I think is inherently flawed. We'll start with men. Now, I'm not denying that there are genetic advantages or even differences between individuals. You have sponsorships, you have different levels of income, you have access to world-class training facilities, you have access to world-class trainers, and so on. There are a lot of differences, and some people have access to these advantages while some other people don't. So because of these advantages, people who are on the pro-transgenders being able to compete as women, even though they are biologically born men, they say, why draw the line? If we already have differences in the competitive arena, why do you arbitrarily draw the line at transgender individuals? Now, the difference here is what I would call a surmountable advantage. Certain athletes may have access to better training facilities and better trainers, but this doesn't guarantee success. If it did, it would make betting in Vegas very easy. We've seen in sports where an athlete from a poor country in a poor town with access to very little is able to overcome all odds and still be able to compete at the highest levels. From what I understand, Manny Pacquiao is an example of this within the sport of boxing. This guy came from poverty. There are boxers in America who probably had access to way more than he did, yet Manny Pacquiao is one of the greatest of all time. And we've also seen how money and access to basically anything you could possibly want can also ruin somebody. Ronda Rousey had access to all the money, all the training facilities. Basically anybody she wanted to work with would have worked with her. And yet at the peak of her career is exactly when she started to fall, and now she's not even in the sport. And people are beginning to say the same things about somebody like Conor McGregor. He made hundreds of millions fighting somebody like Floyd Mayweather. He made millions in the UFC. And now that he has the money to essentially buy access to whatever it is that he wanted, people are beginning to wonder whether or not the comforts of money will be his downfall. Comfort, money, and access to the latest and greatest can be both a blessing and a curse. If you said somebody from the slums of Rio beat somebody in America in judo, despite not having access to all of the world-class facilities that are available in America, it would be a believable story. But if you said that women ran faster than the men in the 100 meters, you would know something was wrong. You would know that the only way that was possible is if all of the men in the race ran, tripped and fell, got up, tripped and fell again, and then finished the race. Saying that the women have never beaten the men in the 100 meters in the Olympics is something I feel very comfortable saying, even though I didn't take the time to look it up. And if I'm wrong, feel free to leave a comment below. Like I said, I didn't look to see if women have ever beaten men in the 100 meters because I don't feel the need to do so, but there is one data point here that I want to share that I think really puts the nail in the coffin on whether or not men who transition to women should be allowed to compete against other women. Now, this data is from 10 years ago, but this really shows exactly how uncompetitive women are relative to men. Because as you can see here with speed and endurance record times across a variety of distance, as well as the high jump, long jump, pole vault, and triple jump, it shows that women are about as competitive as men or boys are between the ages of 14 and 15. As the tweet says, nearly every female Olympic record in speed, strength, and endurance events falls between the records set by the best American 14 and 15-year-old boys. So in order for women to be competitive with men, you wouldn't even be able to compete with adult men. You would have to lower the age of competitive eligible men to 14 and 15-year-old boys. But again, there are no biological differences between men and women, and men don't have any advantages when competing against women. So before you go making the case that there are always advantages and disadvantages in sports, and that there's never really a truly equal playing field, and that as a result of this, men who transition to women should be able to compete against other women, remember to consider surmountable advantages. Advantages that are so big and so great that they've never once been overcome in the history of sports. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please leave a like on the video. And if you want to stay up to date on my latest releases, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and let me know what you think in the comments below. Are there certain edge cases, certain very specific cases where transgenders should be allowed to compete with cis men or cis women? Or do you agree with me and think that the advantages are just too great, that it shouldn't be allowed and they should compete in a separate class of their own? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks for watching.